No one way. Welcome to the extraordinary meeting of council this afternoon. Apologies, I think with one way online we are all present. Item 3, declarations of interest. Has anybody got any declarations this afternoon? I haven't been made aware of any. I'm not aware of any public forums, petitions or deputations. Nor advised an application of extraordinary items, urgent business. I haven't been made aware of any questions. So we'll move to item 7, which is reports, and 7.1 is the adoption of supporting documents for the long-term plan 2024 to 2034 consultation document. Starting on page 5. Into this discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Kia ora, councillors. So the matter for this meeting today is for the council to adopt the consultation document investing in staff and whakaongo ki murihiku to be released for public consultation today, and to also adopt a number of key supporting documents that will go with that consultation. The consultation document covers 4 key matters for the public to provide comment and to test our thinking with the community in this period of consultation leading up to the 6th of May. The first is that the program of work that we have in the budgets for the coming 3 years are basically the request for this is an adjustment for inflation in the first year with a small adjustment for growth in the next 2 years. We're asking for the public to and the community to provide commentary on the way that we're repaying the debt for the climate resilience projects that we've been engaged in the past 3 years and how that is going to fall across a period of repayment of 25 years, and for a consideration of investment and protection for the future of the region against flood and climate change. And there is then a proposal for a flood infrastructure rate, which is the outcome of a review of the rating base, which is a region-wide approach to a targeted rate for flood protection into the future. So those are the 4 major matters that are presented in the consultation document. There are other matters in that document that we'd also like some commentary back from the community on, namely in relation to a proposal to give council the capacity to reduce its shareholding and maintain a majority as a shareholder in Southport, and also for consultation in relation to a broader strategy for climate adaptation for this region. So I commend these matters to you, councillors, for conversation, and that's the nature of the presentation this morning. Rachel is able to speak in more detail on these matters, as is Tanya.
Thank you for that. And this has been a very thorough process. Probably we've looked at every aspect of our business at this time, and we'll now put it out to the public, and we will get feedback, everything from changing the way our rating systems work to looking at our assets, and that's where Southport discussion will come up. If you read the Southern Times, it looked like it was a done deal. It's not. We're actually going out to the public to get their views. In some ways, it's the only listed company in New Zealand and in Southland. There may be an opportunity for the mum and dads of Southland to have an interest in this, but first we have to get the acceptance from our ratepayers to say, yes, we think you could proceed with this at some stage. It's not something that would happen overnight. It would only happen when it was advantageous to this council to perhaps broaden our financial base. I mean, we have very few levers to pull apart from rates. It's been felt all around the countryside after several years of inflation, and we are looking at everything from the bottom up. So I'm looking forward to the submissions we will get on this plan. But, anybody else want to comment at this stage? Eric?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm pretty much satisfied that we applied ourselves as diligently as we could, excuse me, to the matters that are before us. Last year, when we got submissions, we had some presenters saying they didn't have information which we thought they'd had. So my question, Chairman, is just how are we making this quite voluminous and fulsome document available to those that want to make submissions? How much is on our website? I haven't checked, which is probably a blemish on my part, but I would just like some assurances that those that want to engage can.
And you're correct. All the documents will be on the website. People can come in and get a hard copy if they wish. So we'll have our consultation document, which is a reasonably short document, but the links are there to all those documents so that people can have a hard look. Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 points just regarding your statement on Southport. The community will have the information when we decide to see fit to do that of ongoing investment with that pool of funds. I would assume that to be correct. That we will have a solid plan for the community.
All we're asking at this stage is the community's view on perhaps changing our shareholding at some stage. That no decisions are made, and it's quite clear in that document that we believe it's a strategic asset and we would not sell below the majority shareholding.
If we decide to, in the future, we would have a concrete plan for the community of where those funds would be reallocated.
That it would have to be a transparent process.
Yes, that's what I'm after.
Unfortunately, the media, through stuff yesterday and today, give a different impression when you read the headline.
Yeah, we have to be.
We've already decided, or we haven't.
Yep.
We need to make sure that people understand that.
And just secondly, if I could please, Mr. Chairman, I just want to talk, the plan is a reset and it is far reaching, but I just want to comment on the infrastructure program itself and just make a general statement that coming out of the 1970s into when the last lot of infrastructure was built in this province around flooding, and it was really the slam dunk was 1984 when that really hit home that we had to do something, and we did. I just want to comment on the quality of those works back then and how it's given our communities a sense of comfortability. And so the question is now, what do we do in this period at this moment of time? Are we going to make those far-reaching decisions? And I think this is what this document is pointing towards, to give the next generation that comfortability that we've been enjoying for the last 35 years. So that's the way I see this anyway going forward.
And look, this is a major plank in this LTP. Is that we've seen what's happened in the North Island in the last few years, and the heartache with people who still can't return to their houses. So we are actually going out transparently and honestly to have a conversation with the public and saying, how fast do you want us to do this stuff and at what costs? We will listen. And we've made some good progress with the shovel-ready money over the last few years, and that's the first time in 30 years there had been government funding. And I guess from my point of view, we need to be ready, but actually the sort of numbers we're talking are huge, and without government funding, some of it's going to happen quite slowly, but we need to be ready. The regional sector has done some really good work on a document called Before the Deluge, which is in the hands of the government, which shows the cost-benefit ratio of actually doing something before it happens. So we're hopeful that there'll be some funding going forward on that. And of course, we know we can't continue to build flood banks higher and higher right across the province. So we've also got some research going on soil flood. So that will give us some answers going forward on how we can actually mitigate the events we know will come. And we just, as a council, we need to take a responsible pathway forward, but we've also got to listen to our communities. Anyone else want to comment at this stage before Rachel?
Just page 20 with regards to the guiding financial principles. Seem rather open-ended. So 6, we aim for rates to be affordable and equitable. Will increases set to provide certainty to ratepayers. And we mentioned of operational savings, so with increases and operational savings set to be delivered in a sort of business increment, as well as just looking to rates for continued rises. We need to be able to have some guiding financial principles that apply to trying every way possible for savings as well.
Women might like to comment on that, because I know this organisation has gone through the budget with a fine-tooth comb to keep it as tight as possible. Do you want to comment on that at this stage?
So I'm very happy to. So Councillor, also on page 21 of the further up the list of guiding principles, which is ahead of rates, which is always towards the bottom, is our responsibility to ensure that we are very efficient and effective in the way that we actually are providing our level of service. This LTP and its proposal is based on those principles from local government, which is an agreement with the community about what they want us to spend money on. So this this LTP is going out to consultation on probably one of the most serious matters that the whole of regional councils are facing right now, which is the matter of flood resilience as a really critical immediate threat in the face of a broader climate adaptation conversation. So with that in mind, and knowing that that's an additional impost on the community, that we are asking for an investment of $2.3 million from the community in this LTP per annum, that we are also went through a process of ensuring that we had actually reviewed all of our expenditure across our programs of work, which we did across most of the last calendar year as an organisation, to ensure that we could actually define those levels of service, which we have presented for the first time in this LTP, not by functional group, but by programs of work, so you can see where the investment is going. And that process was and is a constant process for this organisation now. And so that is reflected in the budget that's in the supporting documents for this. So yes, absolutely, as a principle, what you were saying is exactly how this executive approaches its budgets, and will continue to do so, which is why we're not asking for any additional funding beyond investment in inflation.
A few comments. First thing is, we need to make sure the public, this is a consultation document. Really reiterate that. We want the feedback. We're putting it out there. And I know a lot of the councillors around here, we struggle with some of the numbers that we're facing. It's not, we haven't taken this lightly, but it's actually saying, here, this is what we think. What do you think we should be doing? So it's hugely important, and I was just going to say, beg the government and community to read this. And before they just see the 23% or whatever their rate increase, realise where it's going. And that's what I'm probably really reiterating. It's a bit like this, the Southport shares. It will take some time if the community agrees with us or makes a decision around that. It's not going to be done just next day. So there's ability to have, we want to hear people's views. I'm just going to keep on reiterating that. And this, I would believe that some of these decisions may get altered. But it will be quite challenging. We've got to talk about levels of service to when it comes to flood infrastructure. There is a limit to how high we build flood banks and things like that. And these things are going to be challenged. But it's actually good to put some numbers in front of us for the community, for the government to understand the costs. So it just comes back again. We need to know what the community thinks. And I hope we get some exceptionally good feedback. Plenty more. What it's for.
Lyndall.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Just to reinforce Councillor McPhail's point, and emphasise the fact that all parts of our community need to submit, not just the noisy ones. For want of a better term. It's really important that we hear from all our constituents, not perhaps just the ones who feel most invested. Tell your friends and neighbours, because it matters to all of us, because we are all very, very connected in Southland, and so none of our decisions will only affect you, they will affect you and yours and everybody else.
Eric,
Yeah, I just think the tenor of what's been said is so important about the consultation and important. So just the process by which that can happen, is there an opportunity for written submissions to be put in? Because we need to make that clear as well. Rachel might respond to that, as well as people presenting in person verbally. So if we could just have some explanation, because I'm presuming there are people watching say, we've been admonished, we've been encouraged, you want to hear what we're saying, how do we do it?
Thank you, Chair. So the back of the consultation document, which is in your papers, sets out the process, and yes, we will absolutely be seeking written submissions. For those that may not feel comfortable making a written submission, we also encourage them to get in touch if they are unable to make a written submission, and we will look at other options for them. The process is that we call for submissions to the 6th of May, and then we'll hold the hearings later on in May where people can come and speak to those, but you can absolutely make a submission and not come and speak at the hearings. So, range of options available.
Thank you.
Anything further at this stage? I mean, the timing for these things is never great, and I think we're all aware that there are people who are borrowing money to put food on the table at the moment in various parts of our society. But we would be remiss if we didn't put the options out there, particularly around resilience. We're also proposing to move to a capital value rating system, which is more in line with most other councils in New Zealand. That there always tends to be some winners and losers, so there will be an ability for people to go online and have a look at their own rating properties and see what difference it makes to them. But probably at this stage, I might hand over to Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm actually just going to share a couple of slides quickly, which take us through the matters that you're recapping the matters that you've determined we should go out and consult the community on, and the process that's been followed to get there. So I'll just share my screen. I can see that. So as the council's articulated for some months now, the overall theme for this long-term plan and what we're going out to consultation on is investing in flood protection to build community resilience. So the key issue that is contained in the consultation document is the proposed increase and ongoing investment in flood protection. So there is 2.3 million per year in operating expenditure proposed, and that's linked to the new flood infrastructure rate that Walma mentioned at the start. We also have payment of interest on debt for the climate resilience projects that were undertaken during this long-term plan, and then all of that is underpinned by the funding review or rating review that has been undertaken and is part of a separate consultation. As Walma has also articulated, we've built inflation into budgets, but there is no increase in our other work programs for the coming year, and we're proposing 2% growth for the years out from there. So we started the journey some months ago, and council looked at the biggest environmental issues you recall for the region, and one of the ones that we've spent a lot of time talking about is the changing climate with more severe and intense weather events. So flooding is the region's most common hazard, and you've talked about through the discussions around our infrastructure strategy, our ageing flood protection network, and the fact that we all receive benefit from that network. The September 2020 23 event just highlighted yet again how dependent we all are on the roads and other lifelines that network protects. And as has been touched on already, the fact that we also need to plan and invest for the transition to the longer term, and that we can't just keep building stock banks higher and higher either. So that's been the journey that you've gone through over the last few months, looking at all of that information. In terms of process, we've had over a dozen workshops. We've had the Catchment Liaison Committee chairs at a number of those, as you'll recall, given their long history with the management of the catchments and expertise they have in that space. We've also held events out in the community. So we did run some of our own drop-in sessions initially, but then found that actually attending existing events was where we were getting more engagement. So there's just a photograph there of a poster from one event where people were providing their input on priorities for us as an organisation. And flood protection was very much a key topic of discussion at those events. All the workshop materials we've been capturing as we go, and presentations are sitting on the website, and we're doing a check to make sure everything's there ahead of the consultation period going live, but we've been capturing that information as we go. So this diagram summarises the information in the consultation materials and that theme of region-wide community resilience and the investment in infrastructure, data and knowledge and response capability. So again, showing that $2.3 million per annum of OPEX, as well as some CAPEX to inform the catchment modelling. The box in the middle at the bottom shows the investment in capital works and looking at alternatives to traditional flood protection systems. So you'll recall that for years 1 to 3, we have some investment in the Waihopai, Winton and Lunston in terms of the flood infrastructure there. But year 4 onwards is signalling a much bigger program that is reliant on central government funding. And then to underpin all of that, we've looked at our approach to funding and looking to move that out to a regional approach. So where that's landed, and this is covered in the CD, is a third of our ratepayers paying up to $1 more per week on average. Another third of ratepayers paying between $1 and $2 more per week on average. And overall, 80% of ratepayers paying less than $3 more a week. As has been indicated, there is a rates calculator that will be made available on our website so people can go and see for themselves exactly what the impact is, with some variance depending on where you are in the region, the capital value of your property, etc.
When will that be up?
That will be when we go live with our consultation tomorrow. So this is the breakdown for an average 450k property, just showing the breakdown between the proposed operating expenditure linking to that flood investment, and then so actually just using the colours, the blue is the proposed operating expenditure, the purple is the funding costs for the current climate resilience projects, and then the rest of our program, our business as usual, is the orange. Just to highlight, as has already been highlighted, a number of other consultations sitting alongside this particular one. So in particular, the revenue and financing policy rating review, which we'll touch on more shortly. Also the shareholding in Southport and a range of other matters there. So just wanting to highlight a number of things being consulted on. I'll stop sharing now, and what we will do is take you through the recommendations. So I'll hand over to the team to take you through the recommendations.
Kia ora everybody, through you, Chair. So looking at the first item, which is the adoption of the supporting documents, yes, as the precursor to this, every council is required to have a long-term plan at all times, and alongside that we must use the specific consultative procedure and set out in the Lockdown Act 2002. In terms of the development of the consultation document, we are required to do that and prepare that and adopt that in accordance with sections 93A1A for the purpose of consulting with the community. And as to a point raised earlier, we're required to make publicly available all of the information that underpins the consultation document, as well as providing the basis for the preparation of the long-term plan itself. As has been highlighted, the consultation document sets out a range of issues and information and supporting information. And this item is about looking at that supporting information to adopt it in advance of adopting the consultation document itself for consultation. So the recommendations for this item are pursuant to section 93G of the Local Government Act 2002, adopt the following information as the 2024 to 2034 long-term plan supporting information, and that includes draft financial strategy, the draft infrastructure strategy 2024 to 2054, the draft groups of activities and performance framework, the draft financial information, including the prospective financial statements, disclosure statement and funding impact statement, the proposed financial reserves policy, the proposed rates remission and proposed postponement policy, including the rates remission and postponement for Māori freehold land, the draft statement of accounting policies, the draft statement of investment policy and objectives, the proposed significance and engagement policy, the proposed treasury policy, the proposed marine fee reserve allocation policy, and the significant forecasts and assumptions. So as you can see, there's a lot of supporting information and work that goes on in the background and that supports both the consultation document and the long-term plan. The second recommendation is to agree to delegate authority to the Chief Executive to approve any non-material final edits required to the supporting information in order to finalise these for printing and distribution.
Thank you for that. That's quite a comprehensive list, which I suspect we do at the end of this process, not right now. So, yeah.
These documents we've got 4 items that we need to work through, and so actually all up. So this is the first one where we must adopt the supporting information prior to moving to the next.
Right. Moved by Jeremy, second for that. Any discussion? I will put the motion. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Right, now we move to Tania for
Chair. So the item we're discussing now is the draft revenue and financing policy and statement of proposal and changes, page 192. On the screen, we're sharing the statement of proposal with you. Just before we discuss that, I want to support what has been said by the Chair and by GM Rachel Miller. We have undertaken some significant work during this LTP, reviewing the current revenue and financing policy with the view to considering how we fund council activities, particularly biosecurity, land sustainability and flood infrastructure. This has been a large piece of work, and as itemised here on page 192, we've been following the Local Government Act through those steps across a number of workshops. We've added into that, as again noted here, engagement with the public at various events to gauge where the public is feeling, our ratepayers, about these really important issues. We've followed the process as set out in the Act very diligently. We've completed that with a legal review to ensure that all the papers in front of you and all the steps taken are fully compliant with that process. There are 3 attachments to the item. There's the proposed revenue and financing policy, the funding needs analysis, which details each of the activities of council and how we propose to fund them, and then the statement of proposal itself, which is more the public-facing document, which details the proposal to change three proposals here, and I'll go through them now. The first one is to create a new flood infrastructure rate based on capital value to replace 140 catchment rates. The second proposal is to move the biosecurity and land sustainability rates, which are currently land value, into the general rate based on capital value. The third proposal is that all new flood protection infrastructure will be funded by borrowing, with the repayment to be paid by all ratepayers across the region. Now, the question might be asked why, and I'd like to refer you to page 217. And this is a proposal, and it says this. Recently, has been moved to an integrated catchment management approach reflecting a mountains to the sea philosophy. Biosecurity and land sustainability are key components of integrated catchment management, alongside the other activities of council. All South and ratepayers benefit from this type of approach. A healthy environment benefits us all. In addition, funding for future-focused climate resilient solutions requires the replacement of our current rating system with a simpler, more broad-based approach. Currently, there is no rating basis to fund new infrastructure, and a new rate is needed regardless of any change to our current rates. That is the fundamental tenets to our proposal, Chair. Now I'd like to discuss very briefly the outcomes that are detailed in this statement of proposal so that we're aware of the impact on the general public. Thank you. The rating proposal on its own does not increase the total volume of rates that we're proposing. Okay, so this is a consultation separate to the CD. It is a consultation separate to the proposed budget increase. We're asking the community if they agree with our proposal to share the rates in a different way. So the total proposal was $25.5 million would be shared across a different group of ratepayers than it is currently. There's a slight movement there. You can see on the screen, commercial goes from 9 to 11, residential from 46 to 47. Ratepayers individually will find that will impact their own rates dependent on their location and their current capital value and land value. Now, to support ratepayers in understanding that, we have a number of tables in this proposal, Chair, that will allow them to see where they might fit into that. We have aimed in this proposal to ensure that the median property moves very little within this change. The majority of the ratepayers will be impacted by $0 to $20 either way, plus or minus $20. Another amount by plus or minus 40. That information is in this pack, Chair. And Dave might just show us. Next one, please. There we go. Yes, 26,200 ratepayers will have somewhat of a rate increase. 24,000 will have a decrease. And you can see there, Chair, that it's in that $0 to $20 is the most of our ratepayers. At the same time, I want to emphasise what the councillors are saying, that this is a proposal. There's been a significant amount of work put into it and consideration. Ratepayers are asked to feedback and submit. They can calculate their own rate changes. There will be an online calculator to give us the full impact of rates. With regard to this policy, there will be a static calculator. It's much simpler to work out what the proposal itself might mean to them. We have had and are planning more community meetings, drop-in sessions, catchment meetings, opportunities to feedback on the proposal. Therefore, Chair, recommend the adoption of the items listed on page 214.
197.
197.
So thank you for that run through, Tanya. And there, we've tried to improve the fairness and equity in some of the changes, and but there's always winners and losers. So the move to capital value, for instance, may affect some people. The philosophy that everybody contributes to water means that perhaps people on F class who pay very little may pay more. So you talk about an average rise, there's no such thing. And I would urge the public to look at each of the changes separately and feedback on it. Don't just look at one and say we don't like it. Look at each of the things. We've gone through a long process to actually see how we can leverage our balance sheet, how we can be fairer. So, Peter, you were...
Yeah, I'll just make a comment, Mr. Chair. Look, the proposed rates review, and I think I could be right in saying that we've been in a management phase for a long period of time in the region. We're going to be moving into a works phase, and it's quite clear that the previous regime of the way we do rates with those 140 catchment rates is not fit for purpose going into a works program. So, and also the way we're proposing this, the flattening out of those rates, like the chairman just said, reflects now the interconnected way this region operates through our transport networks, our business networks, our social networks right across the region. So I think this is a fair reflection of those benefits. So I think the proposed rating review reflects how we are as a region today.
You better Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at page 23, way back, we were looking at the planned increase in total rate. We're looking at calculation through catchment of operations, and then that's the total rates increase. Is that correct? So even though there's some are going up and some are going down, everyone's realistically going up. The figure there is, you can read the figure out on page 23.
Sorry, if I'm on the same page.
And I can't remember agreeing to rates increase of 23%.
Well, answer your first question, Councillor. I was trying to be clear, the rates proposal and the rates consultation is separate to the budget increase. So the two need to be added together, and I was trying to point that out, that there are movements within the policy change that will see changes go up and down. On top of that, we're consulting the next item on the budget increase, which needs to be taken together. So
I understand that. We're given figures, weekly figures, and it makes it little bite-sized figures that everyone can equate to $1, $1.50 a week.
yes.
For some people, that's a lot when they get their yearly bill. And I know we're trying to make some changes in calculation for rates paid, especially around the catchment groups, because there's some unfairness around there. But overall, we're looking at a pretty scary figure.
That's a statement. I can only suggest to you that what we put forward here is at $1.20 a week, the best thing we can do for the people who need us the most.
And we're also looking at possible debt as well.
I'd like to refer to this chair or the CE to answer the question on the debt with regarding investment in infrastructure. Councillor, we could perhaps repeat his question.
Yeah, just checking that, overall rates looking like they're increasing 23%, even though we're doing some changes in calculation with catchment and everything else. But also through resilience funding for climate change, we're looking at debt. Are we not?
Yes, so councillors, when you get to as you say, the next items, and we're talking about the budget, the budget is broken down into basically three parts. It's broken down into the work of the organisation and the work that has gone on last year to look at what levels of service we continue with, so that we're not increasing any work programs or costs beyond inflation. And and we presented that in the document for consultation, so that it's quite clear to see what part of the rates increase that is. Then there is the matter of repayment of debt for the work that has been done for the last 3 years in relation to the shovel-ready projects, as they were known then, the climate resilience projects, which have included work on our stock bank infrastructure and also on Stead Street. And then there is the investment in future infrastructure for the next 3 years, which does need to be funded through debt. There is, however, an operating expenditure in association with that, which we're actually asking the public to consider investing in as well. Then beyond the next 3 years, we've identified the potential for work that could continue if there was government funding, and we've expressed that also in relation to government contribution and then council contribution as debt, with a debt ceiling over that long-term period of 10 years of $70 million, which is well within our local government funding capability.
Okay, thank you. For last year, I think we were given a suspected increase for this year, and I don't think it was that figure.
Last year, we were, so Councillor, you're referring to April, when we proposed the annual plan, and it was last year. The forward increase projected was 12 to 15% for operational costs, based on inflation, without expenditure or any increase in expenditure on top of that. Now, we've, through the workshops, come to the conclusion that that's exactly where we landed, except for the proposed increase in the climate resilience expenditure of 2.3 million. If it was not for that, we would have been on that original target of 12 to 15%.
Okay, thank you for that. And that just goes back to my question earlier regarding financial guiding principles. There's nothing really regarding operational savings within that guiding principles.
I think the CE's responded to that.
There's the next page, but it's not clear enough in the operating guiding financial principles. That's not there. You mentioned the next page, it's not there.
So I think that is captured by Principle 4, which is about effectiveness and efficiency, and the efficiency is a combination of matters, including savings. So that is the basis on which we offer the levels of service. So levels of service is the extent to which the community is willing to invest, and then we need to demonstrate that we're doing that in the most effective and efficient way. So savings is a critical part of that.
This is broken up, Paul, into business as usual, which is 9%, and actually we held things below because the last LTP we had a high rise and we promised to hold it below. So we actually held things very tight with that inflation, you know, where it's been for the last 2 or 3 years. So that's the catch up. There's 5% has been budgeted to pay interest on what the loans were actually incurred on the work that's going on, and there's a proposed 9% for flood resilience. So that those are separate things that everybody can actually submit on. Jeremy, you've been waiting.
Yes, the process has been what Councillor Evans is asking. We've been over these numbers, and the 23%'s been out there for quite some time. We certainly had plenty of time to talk about it, and I think I've been to every workshop involved in it. So this is nothing new to probably hopefully most people. So I'm just saying the process has been pretty clear. Whether you agree to it or not, that's another discussion. But we've known about these numbers for quite some time, so it sounds like we did. So.
I think it's the explanation of how you get there. You know, it's quite detailed and coming from different areas, and how it all adds up. I think that's needs to be explained really well.
Can I just say, Mr. Chair, that when we get to talking about the actual consultation document itself, page 23, that how the dollars stack up in this proposal is quite clear, that there's broken down between both where our income comes from, as well as where the rate requirements for this proposal would be spent. So that matter, when you get to the CD conversation, just so that it's clear for the public, they can see where the funds are going, both in terms of the slide that Rachel showed you earlier in a colour-coded way where the investment is, but that's quite clear year on year for 10 years on page 23 of the consultation document.
Linda.
Chairman, can I just clarify that we're actually discussing the recommendations on page 192, which is the adoption for consultation of the draft revenue and financing policy, draft funding needs analysis, the statement of proposal, and agree to delegate authority to the chief executive. I'll just clarify that that's what we,
That's
yeah, I'm
exactly
happy to
what we
move
have.
that if the discussions come to that point, but
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I will put the recommendation. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Yes, no. Carried. Dave?
Chair, through you, our audit team are online and need to head away to another commitment this afternoon. So would it be all right if I propose, rather than going straight to 7.3, which is the fees and charges schedule, we move to 7.4, which is the consultation document, where the auditors will provide your opinion and provide your department.
289 councillors. 289.
289.
So David's speaking to that. Yes, and the auditor.
I am.
Okay, so we've moved to the conservation document and the recommendations are on page 290. Do our auditors want to make any comment at this stage? I know you're under time constraints, so I'm happy to, the floor is yours if you'd like to comment.
Hopefully everyone can hear me.
Yeah.
Perfect. Not much to say from us, Chairman, other than that obviously you're going to have a discussion on the document now, and subject to adoption of the document by council and receipt of the representation letter, we've completed all of the work that we need to do over the document and underlying information in order to attach our opinion to that. So happy to take any other questions.
Questions to the auditor, I guess, was what the qualified opinion was on the same area I had some concerns on, and that was projection of potential government funding that it has in no way been tied down. I have more of a degree of comfort in actually having it in there, because if it's not there, that will change the picture, and the importance of our organisation being up and running and able to react to any government funding that may or may not come forward is probably very important. So I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed about the numbers that are potentially quite large in the years. Was it 10, but there'll be another LPT in 4 years' time anyway. Linda.
Thanks, Chairman. I just wanted to remind councillors that the way back on page 15, you'll see that the Risk and Assurance Committee had a very thorough go through with the auditors on that very matter around the qualified opinion, and had some recommendations that have been implemented. So as far as from the risk perspective, councillors are going to take that there and can rest assured, and the public can rest assured that it's been gone through very thoroughly with a risk lens, and the auditors have made their position very clear.
Any further comments, or while we have the auditors online?
In the absence of comments, I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Recommendation has been moved by Eric, seconded by John. Any further discussion? Now those recommendations are on 200, which is to adopt the consultation document. 290. Yeah, I am on 290. That's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the item? If not, I will put the recommendation. All those in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Against, no. Carried.
Chair, we have the representation letter here for you to sign as well.
Can we go to the discount?
It's always working. It's gonna cost you £111,000, you don't.
Okay, so we're,
So we're now returning to the previous item,
which is
7.3, which is 242, page 242.
242.
Fees and charges schedule.
Through your draft, take us through 7.3, the fees and charges schedule, 2024 to 2025. The recommendation on page 242 is to adopt the fees and charges schedule for 2024-25 and statement of proposal for consultation. Just a little high level. We've taken the opportunity to improve readability, clarity and understanding were key objectives of this review. As you know, our fees and charges are set on a cost recovery basis so that individuals pay for the services they use. This particular review is based on a strategic intent to move over time to a more risk-based approach to our monitoring and compliance. And largely the fees and charges schedule is majority is unchanged with the exception of a 4.75% increase for inflation. The changes, the substantive changes are on page 243 for your awareness. And also you're in the fees and charges schedule documents themselves, which starts on page 247 and goes on. The changes are highlighted in yellow for helpfulness so you can see the changes are obvious, highlighted in yellow. Leave it at that. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Neville.
Madam Chairman, on page 244, revenue and monitoring, what's alarmist in the
Electronic monitoring, is it? But
River level monitoring.
Interesting name.
annual fee, who is charging them?
The consent holder, they have consent conditions based on river level.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll say that it does come back to you when you go over your limits and bits and pieces, so it does work. Software.
I'm happy to remove the recommendation, Chairman.
moved by Neville, seconded by Alistair. And I think in the main we're trying to move with the CPI so that we don't get big gaps at times in the past. We left it for a number of years, and so it makes sense, I think, to do it that way. I'm sure that the people who are paying won't probably agree, but it's a sensible approach, I think, is to do the CPI each year so you don't get a massive rise after a few years. Any further comment on the fees and charges? If not, we're looking at the recommendation on page 242, which is recommended pursuant to sections 36 and 36 AAA Resource Management Act 1991 and sections 83 and 87 of the Local Government Act 2002 that the council resolved to adopt the fees and schedules 2024-25 and statement of proposal for consultation. So it's been moved and seconded. No further discussion. I will put the recommendation. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Against? No. Carried. Right, page 335. You'll see the recommendation there. It covers rates for emission and postponement policy, including land and the proposed significance engagement policy. Reasonably straightforward, this one, I think. So the recommendation is pursuant with 102 Local Government Act 2002, adopt the proposed rates for emission and postponement policy, including Mary Fairhold land, and the proposal for consultation concurrently with the LTP Consultation Document, and pursuant with section 76AA of the Local Government Act 2002, adopt the proposed significance and engagement policy and proposal for consultation concurrently with the LTP consultation.
I'll move that recommendation, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to second. This just means that we comply with regulations and statutes. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not seeing any. I will put the recommendation. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Against, no. Carried.
We're done.
Thank you very much. Let me get it approved all of that for consultation.
Could I just say something? I know as we're starting on this process, this proposed plan, and as we go through the consultation, and I've been through one before, and I've said this, I just say it will get into some discussions around rates. Don't forget the work plan when we start talking about changes, because that can be lost once we start talking about percentages. So it's just saying that may not be everyone's view, but we're talking about a generational work plan here. So,
Lyndall.
Sorry, a question that might be admitting my ignorance. I apologise if I am. Can somebody please remind me how we're distributing our consultation document? Because I can't remember. Or maybe you haven't told me. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm just about to ask to comment on that, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
So what we will do for you, Chair, tomorrow is send you all the links to where various things can be found on the website. In terms of distribution of documents, we have hard copies go out to a number of places around the region, but we also have EnviroSouth going out this month, which has a whole lot of information and points to things as well. We have a postcard that's going to sit alongside that. We're actually looking at turning that into a submission form, a little flyer that will go out to every household, as well as the EnviroSouth, so people have actually got a written thing they can fill in and send in. But a range of public events still to come up, and drop-in sessions, etc., over the next few weeks as we lead up to the 6th of May.
Thank you for that. Is there any chance of supplying that to catchment liaison committee meetings that we're all going through at the moment?
They're getting them, yeah.
They have
been getting.
The door?
Yeah.
So the people that we're wanting to hear back from?
Looking at this is the culmination of a huge amount of work, and I just like the staff for the work they've put in. They've had a lot of questions. They've gone away and brought the answers to the table. So this, we've been through a few of them. This would be one that I think is the most significant change proposed, trying to make things fairer, trying to bring everything up to date. But at the end of the day, there's a small population, and there's like all local bodies around the country trying to fund the things that councils with a larger population. We also have to do the same thing in the regional council sector. We're trying to make efficiencies by working with our neighbouring councils, working across the South Island. But one of the big questions for the public is how quickly do you want us to move on resilience? And I'm sure we'll get plenty of feedback. It's been an interesting process, and those who haven't been through a robust submission process before, we will see quite a number of the public. Probably not, the silent majority probably won't come in, but I'd actually encourage people to come in if they like it, if they like certain aspects. Let us know, because this isn't an easy job, and that we have to be responsible to our community. So thank you to councillors, thank you for staff for getting us to this stage, and we will wait expectantly to see what the public thinks. So thank you. With no extraordinary business or public excluded, I can declare the extraordinary meeting closed. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.